Hey friends, and welcome to my first ever budget CEDH video, where my goal is to build ultra affordable entry-level CEDH decks for playgroups that favor a CEDH mindset. Today we'll be looking at a $25 storm deck led by the newly printed powerhouse, Vadrik Astral Archmage. Vadrik is a 3-mana Izzet wizard that makes instants and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. It also has a day and night mechanic, gaining a +1/+1 counter whenever day becomes night or night becomes day. Vadrik starts off as an unimpressive mana discount for Spellslinger decks, essentially an overpriced Goblin Electromancer, but the moment his power goes up even a little bit, either adding +1/+1 counters on itself or pumping him up with cards like Haze of Rage, the mana discount becomes absurdly huge, letting us do awesome things like drawing 2 cards for 0 mana with Tezzeret's Gambit, or powering out a giant X finisher like Jaya's Immolating Inferno for lethal damage. Vadrik has a ton of potential, and at only 25 cents, he's the perfect candidate for a budget brew. So here's our game plan with Vadrik. Step 1, we're going to get Vadrik on the battlefield. There are 2 ways you want to go about doing this. You basically only want to cast Vadrik if you think he will stick around. So you either cast him early if you think you can get away with passing the turn with him on the battlefield, or you wait until you have enough mana to both cast Vadrik and immediately pop off. Either way, we're going to be running a lot of cheap ramp options in our deck, basically whatever we can afford, like the humble Sky Diamond. But the 2 highlights are definitely Runaway Steamkin, which can make 1 red mana each time we cast a red spell, and Stormkiln Artist, which makes a treasure whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery. Either of these on the battlefield makes storming off a breeze, and they even enable infinite combos, which we're going to cover later on. Once Vadrik is on the battlefield, we need to pump him up a bit to get going. Our game plan basically needs Vadrik on the battlefield at 3 power to start popping off. Luckily, this is super easy to do. Either we use a pump spell like Sudden Breakthrough or Downhill Charge, or even an equipment like Hero's Blade to immediately pump up Vadrik and start going. But we don't actually need to spend a card at all to achieve this. We just need to skip casting a spell on our turn to guarantee turning day to night to give Vadrik a +1/+1 counter. Odds are that one of our opponents will cast 2 spells on their turn and swap day to night for us for another +1/+1 counter, bringing us to that perfect 3 power to pop off the turn afterwards. Then with Vadrik pumped at 3 or more power and some colored mana to work with, it's time to storm off. We're going to abuse Vadrik's mana discount to cast spells that either generate a ton of extra mana or dig through our deck for very little mana investment, or both. Frantic Search and Pirate's Pillage both let us discard cards we don't need to draw new cards, while actually generating mana for us in the process if Vadrik is giving us a 3 mana discount. We can even use Vadrik to power out massive spells like Apex of Power, drawing us 7 cards and giving us a net gain of up to 7 extra mana to work with. But even more powerful than our card draw is our tutoring options. Quiet Speculation is a super efficient tutor for the many amazing flashback spells in our deck, such as grabbing Reckless Charge as a pump for Vadrik, Visions of Ruin as Artifact Hate and a treasure maker, but most importantly Past in Flames, one of the best cards in our deck, able to give all of our spells in our graveyard flashback. Other important tutors in the deck are Invent, which finds an instant and a sorcery card, Firemind's Foresight, which finds 3 instant cards, and Fervent Mastery, which is there to find Past in Flames and whatever other instants and sorceries we want to grab, and it really doesn't matter what we end up discarding to it, because we could just flash it back later with Past in Flames. So once Vadrik is pumped to 3 or more power and we found the cards that we need, it's time to win the game. Our primary win conditions depend on the budget of the deck, so let's take a look at the sample deck list, starting with the $25 list. We've got 2 juicy combos in this list. The first is Vadrik with 4 or greater power, then either Runaway Steamkin or Stormkiln Artist to generate colored mana, and Searing Touch. Searing Touch costs 1 red mana to deal 1 damage to any target, and has a buyback cost of 4 colorless mana. So we can cast Searing Touch with buyback, with Vadrik covering the buyback cost, and either the Steamkin or the Artist covering the red mana to deal infinite damage. The next combo works very similar. We need Vadrik at 3 or greater power, Runaway Steamkin or Stormkiln Artist, and Haze of Rage. Just like the Searing Touch combo, Vadrik pays the colorless cost to cast Haze with buyback, and the Steamkin or Artist pay for the red cost. But this is also a storm spell, so it makes copies of itself for each previous spell cast this turn, which generates infinite mana with the Artist's Magecraft trigger. It also makes Vadrik infinitely large in the process, so we can cast a 4th spell like Jaya's Immolating Inferno or Grape Shot for infinite damage. The $50 list sees a ton of improvements to all aspects of the deck, most notably its mana base. It also strengthens our 2 previous combos by adding Burji, God of Storytelling, which functions the same way as Runaway Steamkin, generating red mana whenever we cast a spell. We also get to add a new combo to the deck, Vadrik, Electro Dominance, and Reiterate. With Vadrik at 3 or greater power, we can cast Electro Dominance for 2 mana, holding priority to copy it with Reiterate with buyback for another 3 mana. We let Reiterate resolve, putting it back into our hand, and then let the copied Electro Dominance resolve, casting Reiterate for free thanks to Electro Dominance, and with buyback for free thanks to Vadrik. We copy the Electro Dominance again, and do this infinite times for infinite damage. Finally, the $100 list also sees a ton of improvements, but the biggest one is definitely Jeska's Will. This is one of the most busted cards in the entire format, generating tons of mana and card advantage, and it only gets better here when Vadrik lets us cast it for just 1 red mana. If we pair Jeska's Will with Reiterate, we go semi-infinite, generating tons of red mana and having access to cast our entire library. And that's it for my budget CEDH video on Vadrik Storm. This is my first attempt at labeling any of my content CEDH, so I'm really curious to see what the reception will be like. Let me know if you'd like to see more CEDH content sprinkled amongst my usual content in the future, or if you just want me to stay away from CEDH stuff in general. That's fair too. That's all I got for now, so until next time friends, see ya!